Hi, everybody. This is Jason Major from the Biblical Cinematic Universe, which is our episode of the Biblical Comic Universe. Today, we're going to speak about Punisher number 30, Punisher Holy War. This issue is written by Mike Baron with art by Bill Reinhold and inks by Mark Farmer, and is from 1990. So, why does this book make my list? Well, this book starts out with the Frank Castle, the Punisher, going to a Catholic church. For those who are comic fans and who are Marvel fans, you already know that in the comic book history, with Punisher introduced in Amazing Spider-Man 129, by the way, as a villain in that book. Punisher has been revealed in the past to be like he went to the war and he served in war. He originally served in Vietnam, but he also went to seminary. He went to a Catholic seminary, and he is a strong Catholic with Catholic beliefs. And so I thought this was fun that this issue kind of focuses on that. And so in this issue, you have him going to a confessional booth. And so you start off and you say, "What have you to confess, my son? I've killed some men." I'm not exactly sure. And then he says, the usual, they were bad, they deserve to die. "I'm sorry, I know it's not my decision to make. It's not supposed to be easy. I mean, what hope is there for any of my eternal redemption?" And then the priest says, "If you are truly repentant, redemption shall be yours. Now I have a confession for you, my son." And so that happens in the bottom left here. And then afterwards, what happens is that this priest tells him a story and about how, which he shouldn't because he's a priest, he's supposed to be confessing to stuff. The priest tells about how he's hearing confessions of a guy who is called the Bayside Butcher, who is killing men and women, and what we find out in the course of the story is that he is using them to create wax museums. And so you have the Punisher, basically, in the course of the story, I'm not going to show you everything, is that he tracks down who this is, and ends up killing him. Before that, he does meet someone who he suspects as the killer, and it turns out that guy didn't do anything. He just he says he just says that he had done some bad things before, but he never murdered anyone or anything. So and because he was not a drug dealer or anything, the Punisher actually didn't kill him in this storyline. He just said that basically stop. He was just like insulting people or something. He just had like beat his wife or something. Yeah, sexual assault. He had been charged with sexual assault in the past, but like the charges were dropped when none of the girls were testifying. So, anyways, the Punisher actually let him go in this one. He didn't kill him, which is surprising. And then, of course, the Punisher meets the guy who's doing the wax museums, and he's doing the guy's doing a wax of Joan of Arc, the Catholic saint. And when the guy actually is in pain and he's bleeding, he says, "Okay, now you just let me be arrested," and the Punisher does not let him be arrested. And instead, the Punisher does what the Punisher does, which is he pronounces judgment. And then in the end of the story, you'll see him saying, "Hail Mary, full of grace," and he ends up throwing his cross. Forget it. Meaning that he knows that, there's just no chance for him. And then he comes back to the Catholic Church, and the priest that he spoke to is gone. He's left for a mission field because he knows that he broke his vows. And then you see this wax museum of Jesus, and the Punisher says, "Better not look too closely," because he doesn't want to look too closely and try and figure out whether that wax figure of Jesus, which was donated by a anonymous donor, was actually donated by that butcher. But I thought this was the reason I mentioned all this is I thought this was an interesting story, and I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. Like there's been more than one story where the Punisher does go to church and have confession, and same thing with characters like Daredevil as well. But what hope is there for any chance of his eternal redemption? Now, as a Protestant, I believe that, like, you were born again because of faith, not because of works. But even in here, I think it's interesting that he says, like, if you're, the priest says, if you're truly repentant, a redemption shall be yours. But the Punisher's never going to be truly repentant. However, I would argue that in Frank Castle's mind, Frank Castle thinks that he's doing the right thing. He thinks that he is murdering these people because in the way you would in any war, you would murder people who are going to murder others, and he is preventing and he's saving lives in his mind. Right? I'm not saying the rights and wrongs of the Punisher. I'm just saying that I think that we can really get into some interesting dialogue if we want to, just using that as a springboard of the Punisher killing people. You can talk about, like, is it right to kill people in war? Is it right to kill people in self-defense? Is it right to go be a vigilante? Obviously not. This is a cool, fun book. And so, Punisher, Holy War. Go check this out, and we can talk about the theology of the Punisher. Till next time, take care.